Think about the birds that visit your backyard. Some come and go. They appear for a few days, disappear for a while, and then return. You see them occasionally and can never be completely sure whether they're the same birds or different ones every time. But then, there are the birds that are always there. The cardinal that sits on the same branch every morning. The blue jay that arrives at the feeder at almost exactly the same time every day. The chickadee that has been visiting your yard for so long that you can't even remember the first time you saw it. Those birds are not staying in your backyard by accident. They made a choice, and that choice says something very specific about you, your yard, and the environment you've created without even realizing it. Science has an explanation for this, and it's more fascinating than most people imagine. This is bird science. To understand why some birds decide to stay in one particular yard and rarely leave, you first need to understand something fundamental about how territory works in the bird world. Birds do not simply live anywhere. They choose where they live. And that choice is one of the most important decisions a bird will ever make because it directly affects its survival, reproduction, and lifespan. A bird that chooses a poor territory may struggle through winter, face food shortages in spring, or spend its life competing with other birds for resources. A bird that chooses well can live in the same location for years, raise successful broods, and become one of the dominant birds in its area. Your backyard is a territory, and the birds considering whether to live there are evaluating it according to several very specific criteria. The first is a reliable food supply. A feeder that consistently contains food is one of the strongest reasons a bird may decide to establish itself in a yard. Not a feeder that's full one day and empty the next. A feeder that always provides something to eat. That consistency sends an important message to birds. It tells them that the human caring for this yard is dependable. That food will likely be there tomorrow, the next day, and during the difficult winter months when natural food becomes scarce. For a bird, that reliability is incredibly valuable. In many cases, it can outweigh the benefits of a larger territory with more natural vegetation if that territory lacks a dependable source of food. The second factor is safety. A yard where a bird has never been attacked, never faced a serious threat, and never witnessed another bird being harmed becomes classified as safe. And this is where you become part of the equation in a way you may never have considered. The birds that have spent a long time in your yard have already evaluated you. They do not see you as a neutral part of the landscape. They see you as a specific element in their assessment of safety. If birds don't immediately fly away every time you step outside, if they remain nearby when you approach the feeder, if they continue eating and singing while you're sitting quietly in the garden, that means something very important. It means you've passed their safety test. The bird observed your behavior, determined that you are not a threat, and incorporated you into its mental map of the territory as something safe. This judgment doesn't happen in a single day. It often takes weeks, sometimes months, and once it happens, it tends to remain stable. Birds don't start evaluating you from scratch every morning. They already have a category for you stored in memory, and that category becomes part of the reason your yard feels like a good place to stay. The third factor is perhaps the most surprising. Birds evaluate food quality, not just quantity. A backyard that provides quality sunflower seeds, fresh water, and perhaps seasonal fruits offers a more complete diet. Birds can detect the difference. Their digestive systems function more efficiently. Their feathers remain healthier. Their immune systems perform better. And all of these factors influence their ability to reproduce successfully. A bird that eats well in your yard is more likely to raise healthy chicks there, and those young birds may eventually become permanent residents themselves. When you provide proper food for backyard birds, you're doing more than simply feeding them. You're helping create future generations that recognize your yard as home. But science has uncovered something else that ties all of this together, something most people never think about. Birds that choose to remain in a specific yard are not only attracted by resources, they're also influenced by what researchers call social familiarity. Birds are highly social animals. They learn from observing each other. When an established bird behaves calmly around a particular human, feeder, or backyard, other birds notice. They interpret that behavior as useful information. The presence of a relaxed resident bird sends a powerful signal to newcomers. It's essentially saying, this place is safe. The human here can be trusted. The food source is reliable. Without realizing it, your resident cardinal may actually be helping attract more birds to your yard. Its calm behavior serves as the best kind of advertisement. There's one final factor that determines whether a bird stays or eventually leaves, and it involves something many backyard owners do without even realizing it. Inconsistency. A yard that has been perfect for weeks, but suddenly has an empty feeder for several days. Or a yard that suddenly becomes noisy and disruptive, repeatedly frightening birds. Can begin to lose its value in the bird's evaluation, not immediately. Birds have memory. They can tolerate occasional interruptions if the overall history of the yard has been positive. But if inconsistency becomes a pattern, the bird may begin looking elsewhere. That cardinal you've seen every day for months that suddenly stopped appearing? It probably wasn't random. Something changed in the way that bird assessed your yard. And sometimes that change can be as simple as an empty feeder during a critical time when food was needed most. The loyalty of a resident bird is not unconditional. It is the result of an ongoing evaluation. And that evaluation continues every single day. That's why the birds that never seem to leave your backyard are one of the strongest signs that you're doing something right. Your yard has passed and continues to pass. The test birds perform every morning. That cardinal perched on the same branch each day isn't there by chance. It's there because you've created a place worth staying in. And that says more about you than you probably ever realized. Subscribe to Secret Life of Birds and leave a like if this changed the way you see the birds that are always present in your yard. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what part of this video you found most interesting. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the fascinating world of birds.